As you look at the various sectors you're supporting, and we were primarily focused on startups, are there any particular segments within technology, besides the obvious healthcare and perhaps energy and so on and so forth, that you see particular traction these days that you're getting either from a funding standpoint, governmental funding, et cetera, or just that seem to be catching hold faster than others as they ramp up from startup?
I think I would like to start that. And education is definitely one. I'm finding that we are at a perfect time, I think, working with STEM education in Georgia. As there's stimulus money coming into Georgia, I'm also finding that there are a lot of folks that are looking to use those resources and are going to be using those resources. It's very important now for us to use those in an effective community way. So I think you'll find from the Board of Regents to the Department of Education in Georgia to a lot of businesses and nonprofits, there's a lot of opportunities to make an impact on the education community that will drive all of our businesses down the road and will actually take away our ability to have a business somewhere down the road if we don't act accordingly.
I would mention that, I think in general the Georgia early stage technologies scene is pretty diverse, and that there are a lot of opportunities across the board. You start to see a couple of spikes, and traditionally, and it's still a strength, you start seeing a lot of security-based companies. And I think recently we were starting to see a little bit more of companies that are really relying upon the internet infrastructure as a part of their business model. And what's very interesting about that is just the lack of capital intensity for these models. So businesses where you can get a lot further in customer traction with a lot less dollars, which is pretty attractive given the dynamics that we're seeing right now. In those areas, we're seeing kind of a blip in terms of maybe social media type of opportunities and digital media opportunities.
I think we see technology all over the place, but what we're focusing on is really business process software applications of some sort. So, even if you simplify that and maybe say a Salesforce.com or a SharePoint, those types of things, I think, can readily enhance saving dollars on customer, trying to get customers, trying to speed up your operations in the background so you can, your business would be more streamlined. So just business process streamlining, whatever applications would do that.
To get a little more granular, security software companies are continuing to do well here. We are probably the security software capital of the U.S. You look at somewhat in the wireless area, we still have a lot of innovation going there. I'm still waiting to find a killer app, and once we find it, then you'll get it funded, but nobody can tell what it is yet. And Charles mentioned the whole media area. Digital media is really taking off, including gaming and so on. There are 2 or 3 gaming companies that have gotten really some traction in the last probably 6 months. In addition, you have a company here in town called Caneva in the virtual world. And so while social media, it goes a little bit beyond that. And then the whole media area, there's some companies, 1 or 2 that have come out of Turner. You now have Tyler Perry and his studio here. So the whole media thing is something that I think you're going to see a lot more coming out in the way of technology of young companies.
I think sometimes I get confused between alliance, partnership, consultant relationship, and in my mind, if this is correct, a consultant relationship is more short-term, more immediate benefit back and forth, whereas an alliance is longer term. The goodies are at the back, further down the line. But how do you compensate those who help you, your board of your advisory team? Because as an entrepreneur, we have a business over 20 years, but as a launching a new business, we're kind of at a loss on how we compensate those that we've asked to serve on our board of advisors. And finally, how do you structure the compensation for the software development company that may be doing it on the come? I got scolded by a partner of a large law firm as giving away equity at this stage, says it completely hampers you. Do not give away equity. Anyway, there's just very little guidance, I think, for an entrepreneur trying to put together a deal.
Well, they probably are very little guidance. But as far as your board of advisors, the traditional way that young companies do it is grant stock options to the board of advisor member. The company doesn't have money to pay them. And so you give them, generally it would come out of the option pool that you have created, that you would give them what are called non-qualified options because they are not employees. But that is generally what board of advisors are looking for. Now, as far as trying to do software development companies, that is just a give and take negotiation company by company. I have companies that have paid them. I have had companies that have paid part now, part later. I have had companies that have given some equity. It depends on how you can value the equity and how much equity you're talking about. You know, you don't want to give away 25% of your company to a software developer. That is not good business. But, you know, if you can negotiate a reasonable price for the software, maybe part cash, part equity, I think you have to look at it on a case by case.
I would add that I think in my experience, what I've seen companies do with advisors is that they will look at the amount of equity that they might issue to a kind of a mid-level employee and say that amount, if it's a couple of percentage or whatever, is what I want to have available for all of my advisors. And also I've seen best practices in the area of really tying the vesting of those options to actual performance milestones, so that, you know, as the relationship matures, value is delivered, then you can make sure there's a fair trade-off.